All right, peeps. On today's episode of The Kung Fu Genius, the genius will be discussing the legendary beef between Bruce Lee and Lo Wei. Lots of gems, lots of belt buckle knives, lots of, yo, bro, quiet on the set. My horse is winning. Let's get to it.
And every day, I practice martial arts.
Watch out!
Yo, Dre, how you doing, man?
Sifu, how are you?
I'm doing really well, man.
I'm good. I feel a little well rested. My healing process is happening.
That's right. For people who are wondering or who are watching this podcast, the reason why it looks like Dre has a big wad of chewing tobacco in his mouth is because he had a piece of his
chewing
tooth
tobacco
removed from the inside of his face.
Yeah.
So you had an accident a little bit ago.
About a year ago, yeah.
Working accident, not a Wing Chun working accident.
No, this is straight out of work.
Where your tooth, a piece of your tooth
I fell face down on the pavement.
First on the pavement.
Yeah, and off of a flatbed truck, and the tooth was crazy because, boom, smashed to the pavement. I'm looking for a chipped tooth because I'm like, oh, my tooth is gone. I'm looking for it.
Yeah. Little did you know, it's in your face.
It's in my face, yeah.
So yesterday, you just had it removed.
Finally.
Wow.
Honestly, I do not see a difference. You haven't looked at you.
Honestly, it was painful.
Oh,
like, having a tooth in here for a year is painful.
I don't doubt that
and
it wasn't painful. I'm just saying that I don't see any marked difference.
It felt like I was walking on my face. Like it was just...
like he was walking on his face.
Walking on your face.
Okay, so I don't know if you noticed this.
Yo.
But maybe our German viewers will know what this is. This is Fritz Cola. Now, the Kung Fu Genius likes to speak of himself in the third person. The Kung Fu Genius, not really an alcohol drinker, much to the chagrin of my German dad.
Right.
Generally, I just drink water and tea, healthy drinks, low-calorie drinks.
Right.
You don't want to drink all your calories, right? But I do have a soft spot for good colas. In my opinion, Coca-Cola original formula, especially in not the high fructose corn syrup, but the regular sugar version, like the one you still get in Europe.
Yeah.
The best. But now, this year when I was going to Europe, I was introduced to Fritz Cola, which is a German cola, which is like 3 times the caffeine of a regular Coke. But they got the formula right. You know, whenever you drink like a Coke, like RC or any of those other ones, like it's just not right. The caramel, the sugar, it's like they just don't get it quite right.
No.
Fritz Cola they don't import it to the States. So during my ITC, one of my good friends and students, Malte from Berlin, came over, brought me a bunch of Fritz Colas. This is the last one I have. So I figured I would crack it open, drink it.
And you had a good 24 of them.
I did.
Yeah.
And drink it for this very special episode of The Kung Fu Genius.
Nice.
So before we get started, just a reminder that the best way to support The Kung Fu Genius is on Patreon, patreon.com/The Kung Fu Genius. You can get access to episodes early for as little as $5 a month. Higher levels of support, get all sorts of goodies, special videos, all sorts of cool things. And if you don't want to support us on Patreon, you can support us right here in YouTube through memberships of varying levels. So anyway, support the KFG on Patreon or on YouTube. And we thank all of you who are already supporting us. And if you don't want to support us financially, don't forget to like this video, share it, and of course, subscribe and turn on those notifications. That is really helpful for getting these videos out there.
Nice.
So anyway,
you know, I'm excited. I'm very happy to be here. And I got to say for a couple of reasons, you did tell me that we will be working on some cool stuff today. Also, it's hot as balls outside.
Is it? I haven't been outside today.
It took me an hour to get here from your school.
Wow.
And you know, that is not that far.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah. But my apartment here is so perfectly air conditioned. So it can be hot as balls outside. And I'm like, I don't know. It's perfect in here, right? No clue.
I love it.
Yeah. So I want to, and also we're going to be going into Hong Kong very shortly. So we got that pre-Hong Kong energy for the Ultimate Hong Kong Kung Fu Tour.
Yes.
Going to be doing lots of stuff over there. I'm super excited.
I am excited.
Yeah. And we're going to have you and Mikey there. So we're going to have the entire KFG crew in Hong Kong.
Mikey's got to bring the equipment.
Most likely.
I always bring the equipment.
Hey, yo, what in the what?
Most likely by the time this episode comes out, we're probably already back from Hong Kong.
Right, jet lagged out.
Well, we've been recording a lot of episodes in advance because we're going to be gone. So when this episode comes out,
Right.
maybe we're already back from the Hong Kong trip.
I would have
but-
one of those shirts at least.
But
one or two.
hopefully while we're there, we can record a few episodes since we have the entire crew there.
Nice.
I've been to Hong Kong with you and I've been to Hong Kong with Mikey, but never with both of you guys at the same time.
Oh,
This is gonna be pretty dope.
It's gonna be lit.
So what I wanted to do today was kind of piggyback off of a series we did recently where we did a 4-part series on the final months of Bruce Lee's life.
Yes.
People seem to really like it. Those episodes did really well.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of the topics within those episodes are deserving of their own podcast series as well. One of them that came up a few times in those final months was Bruce Lee's contentious relationship with Lo Wei, the director of his
That
first
came
2
up
movies.
quite
Yeah.
a few times. Yes.
In addition to that, just because there was some saltiness going
Mhm.
on during that final year of 73.
Okay.
Yes.
For those who have not watched any of those Bruce Lee final months episodes,
Mm-hmm.
can you break down who Lo Wei is?
Well, I'm going to. And that's basically what this episode is going to be. So I wanted to give people a little bit of context about who Lo Wei is, or I should say who Lo Wei was,
Okay.
and
gotcha.
a little bit about his history, and then maybe why there was so much animosity between Lo Wei and Bruce Lee, and try to debunk or dispel some of the rumor mongering, because Lo Wei, like many people who are involved in the Hong Kong film industry, had triad connections. So that immediately assumes, like everyone immediately assumes that, oh, that must mean he had something to do with Bruce Lee's death. And the truth of the matter is, everyone who worked in the Hong Kong film industry, if they were not a triad themselves, had connections to triads, because that's how it worked. So that mere fact alone would mean that people could just generally theorize, no matter what happened, the triads did it or the triads were involved.
Man.
And like I said a few times in previous podcasts, there's an issue with especially foreigners imprinting what we understand about the mafia, mainly through movies like The Godfather, onto like Chinese triads. And of course, there are many similarities in these organized crime groups. They basically operate in a very similar way, but there are some cultural differences. And sometimes people like these things because no one wants Bruce Lee to have just died for some weird health reasons at age 32. If you could make it that there was a big conspiracy and there were people involved and he was murdered, it makes it a much more interesting story, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Okay.
And that also doesn't mean that you're not just pulling that out of your ass to make that narrative work. So I wanted to talk a little bit about these things so that maybe in the future there will be a little bit less ass pulling. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Lo Wei. Now, most people I'm sure people who are familiar to our podcast would know Lo Wei is the director of Bruce's first 2 films, namely The Big Boss and Fists of Fury. When Bruce initially signed on with Golden Harvest, he signed a 2-picture deal, which I mentioned a few times, for $15,000.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, I saw the breakdown. It's like $10,000 for the first movie, which was Big Boss, and $5,000 for the second one. Although,
15 for both.
yeah, although he got paid up front, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, he got paid $1,500 to do those 2 movies.
So equivalent to the
$15,000. Sorry, $15,000
now would probably be what, $80K?
Well, it would definitely be a little bit more in today's dollars, but given Bruce's financial situation at the time, where he was deep in debt with his mortgage and a few other things, that 2-picture deal, I think, just barely got him a little bit out of his debt hole. And of course, Raymond had to kind of foot the bill for some other things as the movies later started to take in more money.
Yeah.
So it definitely was. I mean, $15,000 back then is a lot more than $15,000 now, but it was still, for a movie star, for 2 pictures, it was better than he got, or better than the offer he was going to get from Run Run Shaw. But it wasn't like American movie money.
So essentially, their relationship was, well, his relationship with Raymond Chow was more like a Suge Knight, Tupac type of thing going
Yeah,
on.
I mentioned that a few times. I think that there are some parallels.
Yeah.
Except that I don't think as could still be theorized about Suge Knight.
Yeah.
I don't think Raymond Chow had anything to do with Bruce Lee's death. I know people
Okay.
want that.
Right.
Because it makes for an interesting story, and they're going to select certain facts to make it so obvious
Well,
that
he was there.
Raymond had something to do with it.
Uh-huh.
But it really doesn't make sense from what we know about Raymond as a person, for what would have actually made sense at that time. But it doesn't stop people from wanting to think that they're the
You know
ones who
what?
got it.
I think that'll be a great episode.
What?
The parallels of Raymond Chow, Suge Knight, Bruce Lee, and Tupac.
I don't think it would be a great episode.
I
for a
think it
couple
would
reasons.
last for about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
That's-
because
that's-
one, the parallels, it's not. I couldn't talk about that for an entire episode. It's not that close. Second of all, the main parallels between their relationship was that Raymond may have been holding on to some of the money,
Mhm.
maybe, and there may not be a sinister thing. It just may be because he had so many out of pocket costs.
Yeah.
With a small struggling studio,
Which makes sense.
that it was easier for him to just say, "Hey, Bruce, here's my Mercedes SL. Enjoy it. Hey, Bruce, here's a house. Now you have a mansion. Enjoy it." Rather than him having to just pay him lots of hard cash. All right.
Well, they
Also,
both had a meteoric rise, and they're both iconic.
But it was a much shorter relationship. And also, I think Suge Knight was a much more malevolent actor than Raymond Chow ever was.
Absolutely. I mean,
So you can't compare the two. With Raymond Chow is not Suge Knight.
yeah.
All right.
Raymond Chow went on to have a long and storied career, whereas Suge Knight couldn't keep himself from being, for want of a better term, hood, and ended up in jail, even
Yes.
though he had millions and millions of dollars and could have just retired.
Right.
Because, still kept down with the disrespect and stuff.
Yeah, I only say it in that he was maybe appeasing him with some material things because he maybe still needed the money to front some other costs. Whereas Suge Knight was doing that because he just straight up did not want to pay Tupac and maybe had no desire ever to. But I don't think that was the idea, because Raymond understood business. And I think he wanted everyone. Why would he not want Bruce Lee to get paid? If Bruce Lee's not getting paid, he's going to leave. And if he's earning all this money with Bruce as a surefire, bankable star, then why shouldn't everyone get paid? That's not the idea. It's just that all of this happened in the course of a year and a half, from Bruce becoming this huge star to, maybe let's say almost 2 years, but 18 months.
Yeah.
To 24 months, somewhere in there. And then it was over. That's the whole story. So it's not a perfect comparison, because I don't think you can compare Suge Knight and Raymond Chow's character. I only mean in the specific situation of maybe appeasing your star by just giving them a bunch of stuff rather than giving them money. In Raymond Chow's situation, I think it was just because he was starting his studio and he had a lot of costs and couldn't front it at that moment.
Okay.
And in Suge Knight's case, he's just a fucking criminal. I mean, so I don't think you could put the two together. Anyway, Lo Wei, and by the way, we all pronounce his name incorrectly because it's spelled Lowei, and everyone says Lo Wei, even people who are Cantonese speakers, and when they're speaking English, if you talk to Bay Logan, he'll just say Lo Wei.
Okay.
But in Cantonese, his name would be Lo Wei. Lo. So that Lo name is like my friend Lo Mong from the Venoms, Law. Whenever you see Lo, it's not Lo, it's Law. Almost pronounced like Law.
Law.
And then so his
Lo
name in
Wei.
Cantonese would be Lo Wei.
Law.
And in Mandarin, because they often use
Lo
kind of a
Wei.
Mandarin-esque spelling. And so the Lo Wei spelling is closer to how you say it in Mandarin. But it would actually be Luo, like Luo, Luo Wei. But that would be Mandarin. But since we are in Hong Kong, we're talking about Hong Kong films. If you use the generic Lo Wei, like what everyone calls them, or you should say Lo Wei, because then it's more accurate. But to use a Mandarinization or to use the proper Mandarin one is a little weird because he didn't. There were Mandarin movies at that time, but we're talking about Hong Kong stars and Hong Kong movie people, right?
God.
So he was, and I have a couple things here written, just like some basic fact stuff. To make sure I don't get any of that stuff wrong. He was born in 1918 and he died in 1996. All right. So, had a pretty decent run. Wasn't like super duper old like Run Shaw or Raymond Chow, but had a bit of a run there. And he was both a Hong Kong film director and an actor. And known especially for launching the careers of both Bruce Lee and then later Jackie Chan. Now, that's another thing that people forget is that, or maybe people don't know, is that before Lo Wei became this director, because we all kind of know him as a somewhat kind of pudgy-faced, cigar-smoking, older-looking Chinese director, who Bruce Lee didn't get along with and who trapped Jackie Chan into some weird contract. So, like, your general impression of him from the start is not very favorable. But when he actually started as an actor. And he started acting in the 1950s. Okay. And he was like as they say in his biography on Wikipedia, he was like a popular matinee idol. So when you go back and look at the old photos of Lo Wei, yeah. He wasn't a bad looking dude in his early days. He was like an actor. Guy. He was like a good looking dude. Yeah. And he didn't start off as a director. And
got to see some of these pics.
I don't know if those movies, those like 1950s Hong Kong films, unless we're talking about the Quan Tak King serials, like the Wong Fei-hung movies, those movies tend to be a little slow. Bruce Lee made a couple movies in the mid to late 50s.
Have you ever watched any old school Bruce Lee movies?
Yeah. His original, like The Orphan, and my Son Ah Chung, and I've seen those. Yeah, but I mean, if you're not like totally into it, I mean, it's not Enter the Dragon with a 13-year-old Bruce Lee. All right, it's like it's like a drama. It's like a dramatic teen film from the 50s, slow, slowly paced, edited in that style. It's not what you expect, right? After,
what about you, Mikey? Have you seen any old school Bruce Lee?
I have not.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
But at the
when
we were at the Bruce Lee exhibit last year, you got to see a bunch of clips from his early.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, actually, that is true. I did see all the clips from when I was over there and got to see. We'll probably get to see that again this time around, will we not?
Hopefully. Yeah, although they don't show that documentary anymore, but they do show clips of it while they're there. Are you a Wing Chun instructor that needs some extra guidance in your own training? My private online Wing Chun training offers a multitude of benefits for instructors. Here are some of those benefits. 1, access to expert guidance, namely me. With my experience teaching instructors from all over the world, I can create a program just for you, whether it's the details of the advanced Wing Chun, something more fundamental, or just to help you create a program for your own students. 2, flexible learning. The training can be worked around your schedule and what's most convenient for you. I don't charge extra if you bring a training partner to do the lesson with you, so bring that partner and you can get more benefit, and I can teach the two of you how to train together. 3, comprehensive curriculum. Whether you want to teach in a more traditional way or you want to upgrade your material to a more modern style, I can help you create the perfect program for your students and for yourself. And 4, personalized coaching. This program will be exactly what you're interested in without any fluff or blah, blah, blah to run things out. We get right to it, and I want you to be happy with the improvements to your training and to the curriculum. Don't miss out on these incredible benefits. Enroll in online Wing Chun private training with me and take your Wing Chun skills to the next level. Use the code KFG online to get a 15% discount on monthly subscriptions for either 2 or 4 lessons a month. This offer will last until July 30th, 2024, or until my schedule gets totally booked. Use the link in the description below. Don't forget to use the code KFG online to get that 15% discount on the subscription of your choice as soon as possible. And I will see you online. So after Bruce Lee's death, he was basically the guy who kind of gave Jackie Chan a start. So he's also known for that as well. He wasn't just the guy who quote unquote launched Bruce Lee. Although I think Bruce Lee would have been launched with any director, or no director, or Bruce Lee directing it himself.
Right.
So I think Lo Wei just happened to be in the right place at the right time as far as Bruce Lee, but I don't think Bruce Lee became Bruce Lee in those films because of Lo Wei. I think you could have put any director in those movies and they would have been, it would have launched Bruce Lee. He had a production company called Lo Wei Motion Picture Company, which was founded in 1975. So that's already 2 years after Bruce Lee died, and went until the late 80s, but it really kind of petered out around 78. I don't think he just didn't dissolve the company for another 10 years. This meant that he had a production company separate from Golden Harvest. So when he was first making those films with Raymond Chow in Golden Harvest, he was basically a studio director for Raymond Chow. But then a couple of years after Bruce Lee died, he had his own production company and he was making his own films. So there's always a little bit of confusion about that, because he was at one point connected to Golden Harvest, and then at one point he's kind of doing his own thing separate from Golden Harvest. Okay. And it's another reason why I think the conspiracy theories about Lo Wei having something to do with Bruce Lee's death are also equally stupid. First of all, he was a contract studio director under Raymond Chow. So he was a subordinate and employee of Raymond Chow. So why would then this one employee of Golden Harvest, who happened to not like Bruce Lee for insert reasons, then decide he's going to kill the boss's star? It doesn't make sense for that reason, even if we're talking about, he's got triad connections. Okay, he has triad connections. So now he kills his boss's golden egg,
where he cuts off his money as well.
Exactly. Well, there's that. Well, Bruce was, after those two films, it was clear Bruce was never going to make another film with Lo Wei again. That was clear. That you would have known before Bruce Lee died. He was very open about that. So it wasn't that. But Lo Wei was an employee of Raymond Chow. So how is then he going to decide to kill his boss's star when he's not going to make movies with him anyway? It's absurd. All right. I mean, it would have put Lo Wei in a really bad position, because if Raymond knew that would be really problematic for Lo Wei's career and his, ability to stay out of jail. All right. So it's a complete non-starter that Lo Wei would have had Bruce Lee killed. Lo is credited in over 135 movies as an actor. Okay, so
whoa.
Yeah, so he was quite prolific, and he did over 60 movies as a director, 30 of them as a writer, and over 45 as a producer. So he was very prolific. Now, mind you, in Hong Kong cinema, they crank out films sometimes one every couple weeks. Okay. So it's not like if you said Steven Spielberg did 135 movies, right? We're not talking like that level of quality, right? These movies, these studio films were being churned out like crazy, right? Yeah. But he has many more credits as an actor than he does as a director, writer, and a producer. So he was before, amazing. We know him as this director, this kind of slimy cigar smoking director, but that's him kind of a little later in life. And that's kind of his second act in his career. That's not the first part. That's just where we come into focus, right? Wow. And in order to discuss Lo Wei's history, so I have to do this episode in a couple parts. We have to discuss Lo Wei's history. That's why we're going into his background. We also have to talk about someone else I don't really like talking about, which is Jimmy Wong Yu. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happened with the whole Jackie Chan thing, so that you kind of know Lo Wei's character. And then we can start to get into the Bruce Lee stuff. Okay.
I see.
So that's the reason why I'm prefacing this with a little bit, we have to do a general Lo Wei history, right? Now, of course, I'm just running some bullet points here. There are obviously anyone who's really into these topics. There's a lot that I'm going to have to gloss over. There's a lot that I'm going to have to rush over. And there might be some things that I don't spend a lot of time talking about that are big topics in and of themselves. So there's no way when it comes to discussing history, there's no way, there's no way to encapsulate someone's entire life story into one episode. And then we're not just talking about Lo Wei, we're also talking about Bruce Lee. So obviously a lot of things are going to be condensed and they're not going to be 100% fleshed out, right?
Oh, right.
So we know Jimmy Wong Yu is this, or was another iconic Hong Kong actor. He, to a certain degree, he does predate Bruce Lee as an action star. And after Bruce Lee became like the big guy, I think he stole a lot of Jimmy Wang Yu's shine, because it's like, and I've said it before, I know it's a little bit of a it's almost like a trite kind of comment to say, but it's a lot like the music, like rock and roll. There's the time before the Beatles, and there's the time after the Beatles.
After the Beatles.
There's the time before Elvis. There's the time after Elvis.
Okay.
And in Hong Kong action cinema, there was the time before Bruce Lee, and there was the time after Bruce Lee. And he's kind of, to borrow a Marvel Comics terminology, he's kind of a nexus being, right? That kind of changed everything. And before Bruce Lee, the bar for action was not quite the same as after Bruce Lee. In fact, I believe that one of the main reasons why people like Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung had to go so hard into like the stunt and comedy direction of things is because they knew they could not compete with Bruce on that ultra cool bad MFer who's just wow, like, and he had that cat-like movement and charisma. Jesus. Because that was Bruce Lee, and that will always be Bruce Lee. And anyone who tries to go into that realm
just
ends up looking like a really cheap imitation, right? They end up looking like Elvis Presley, you know what I mean? And
Elvis Wesley.
Yeah, Elvis Wesley,
Pelvis.
Right? Yeah, Pelvis Wesley.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come out right. It just looks like people who are trying to imitate him, like with the Bruce exploitation movies that came after Bruce's death, like the movies that Jackie Chan did, partially with Lo Wei, to imitate Bruce Lee, New Fists of Fury and stuff. And basically, as a lot of people put it, before Jackie became famous in his own right, so in the time after Bruce Lee died, which was 73, until Jackie made Snake and the Eagle's Shadow with 77, around there, in that kind of 4 or 5 year period, Jackie was making a lot of like Bruce exploitation movies, and he was just kind of known as like a big, and this is the words in one of the articles I read, as a big nosed Bruce Lee impersonator, like a low rent, big nosed Bruce Lee impersonator. So Jackie wasn't anyone who was standing out on his own. And it wasn't, I think, until they pivoted to take their background in acrobatics, Chinese opera, comedy, to start putting stunts and acrobatic stuff into the fight scenes to make them just more spectacular and visually impressive, because no one can compete with Bruce Lee. You can't even say what it was that Bruce Lee did that was different. It was just like charisma. Him. It was just him. And anyone who would try to be him would just come off flat, right? And so Wang Yu was a big deal before Bruce because he had done The One-Armed Swordsman, which was a huge hit. It was in 1967, which was also a time of a lot of turmoil in Hong Kong. There were a lot of riots and a lot of crazy shit going on at that time. And One-Armed Swordsman is like really raw and visceral. And he later then did, I think, The Chinese Boxer, which is where he's like now starting to fight Japanese, like kung fu versus karate kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
And it was very good and very violent and aggressive for the time. And then Bruce Lee came, and it was like, whoa. And suddenly people didn't really give two shits about Jimmy Wang Yu, right?
Oh, man.
Jimmy Wang Yu, however, did make some films after that, after Bruce Lee died. He had some kind of success. Jimmy Wang Yu, however, is known by many people to be actually just a triad-linked movie actor, a little bit like Chan Wai-man. And, but really like, and someone who could easily be goaded to fight, including some of his wives and ex-wives.
Oh, no.
And he, Jimmy Wang Yu was the guy who would get arrested for getting in a fight with someone on a plane. He was like that guy. You know what I mean? Like the guy like, "Are you talking to me?" rolling up the sleeves, and then, basically an adult that acts like an aggressive 13-year-old. But he never got over that. But he did have triad connections.
Okay.
And he was, a badass in his own right. Maybe not in the same way that Bruce Lee was, but he was someone to be respected. My good friend, Vincent Lin. That's me name dropping. Um, he
Right.
made films in Hong Kong in the late 80s and early 90s, including films with Jackie Chan.
Mhm.
And he told me that one day, I believe it was when he was doing Operation Condor, which is Armor of God Part 2 with Jackie Chan. Vincent Lin was the main villain against Jackie in that final fight scene in the wind tunnel. And Vincent told me that one day on the set, Jimmy Wang Yu came. By the way, he goes by Jimmy. He went by Jimmy Wang Yu, but Wang is a Mandarin version. It should be Wong. So I will occasionally flip flop between Wong being the Cantonese pronunciation
Right.
and Wang being how he's more generally
That
known.
makes sense.
But it should be just Wong. All right. So Jimmy Wang Yu showed up on the set, and Jackie went to Vincent. He's like, "Do you know who that is?" And Vincent didn't immediately recognize him because at that point it was the early 90s,
Mhm.
and no one had really seen Jimmy in movies since the early maybe mid 70s. So obviously he doesn't look the same. He's much older. And then Jackie said, like, he is that's Jimmy Wang Yu. He used to be a big movie actor, and he's and basically said, maybe not in so many words, he's also like a very important person, meaning like triad connected. And he said, and basically the vibe that I got is that Jackie kind of just warned Vincent, like, if he comes by, you better be very respectful. Okay, so like they this isn't like you don't go up to him and like, "Oh, you're Jimmy Wang Yu," and give him a little slap on the shoulder, kind of like he's not the guy you do that with, right?
Okay.
So he was kind of pre-warning Vincent to like, just kind of cross your T's and dot your I's around this guy, and don't talk out of turn and things like that, which shows the high level of respect that Jackie had for Jimmy Wang Yu, and rightly so, because Jimmy Wang Yu actually helped Jackie out of a really weird predicament. So after Bruce Lee died, Jackie is basically just a stuntman who worked for Golden Harvest. And by 75, Lo Wei starts his Lo Wei production company. And he's filming a lot of movies in Taiwan because it's a little cheaper. And Jackie then goes on contract with Lo Wei. So he's no longer with Golden Harvest. He's on contract with Lo Wei. And Lo Wei had a kind of a pretty ironclad contract with Jackie. He paid him 3,000 about around 3,000 Hong Kong dollars a month. And then whenever Jackie made a movie, he would then get an extra 3,000 for every movie that he made. So he was getting like a steady salary of 3,000 Hong Kong a month, and then would get an extra 3,000 for every movie that he made. And that was it. And some of these movies made a lot more money than that. And that's all Jackie was getting. Now, I did the math. I looked at how much the Hong Kong dollar was worth I just put 1978. And it ends up that all in all, because then you have to do, okay, what was that money worth in US dollars in 78? But then you have to go, what is that dollar amount in US dollars worth in today's dollars? All right. So you have to then do like a few different calculations. Wow. And it turns out it's about $3,000 a month. Okay. Now
3,000 US.
Yeah, it would be about worth that much now. But we also have to realize that it was Hong Kong, so it can be a little more comparable to New York City. $3,000 in Pennsylvania, West Virginia a month.
Yeah.
You can have a house, you can live great, you can have all sorts of gadgets. $3,000 a month in New York, you need a roommate. Like if you earn $3,000 a month in New York, you need a roommate.
Oh, yeah.
You can't really live on your own unless you're renting a room, in which case you still have a roommate.
Right.
Okay. You can't have an apartment really anywhere on your own for $3,000 a month, which means you don't have much money left over. So Hong Kong is very comparable to that. So it sounds like, well, maybe it's not that much, but it's not that little. And if he made a movie, he got double. So he got 6,000 in a month, which is kind of okay. But for a movie star and a headliner to basically earn like a barely earn rent kind of way, it wasn't a lot of money. All right. And at that point, Raymond started to see that there was some potential in Jackie because he was making all these low budget movies with Lo Wei. A lot of them were stinkers. Half a loaf of kung fu. Like that was literally one of the titles. Like the Jackie Chan Taiwanese period, he just made like some people like those movies. I just find them kind of unwatchable and shitty.
Oh.
Especially when you know what Jackie is capable of. It's just like it's watching an actor who can do great comedy, great physical stuff, kind of be restrained by really shitty scripts and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And Raymond Chow wanted to bring Jackie to Golden Harvest and give him a big salary, big budgets, creative freedom. But Jackie was basically stuck doing these cheapo movies with Lo Wei, a former employee of Golden Harvest. And Lo Wei himself basically saw him as just a big nose Bruce Lee impersonator, right? So then this is where, in hindsight, you can almost say Lo Wei. So Lo Wei loaned Jackie Chan out to a small production company. Now, I've discussed this before. If you ever watch Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, it's one of Jackie's like best of the old style kung fu movies where he does the snakes out, and they have Wang Zhangli is the villain, right? And Deane Sek is like the torturous Si Heng, right? And it's a kung fu comedy, and he's doing like the snake style and doing all this cool shit, and it was a huge success, and so much so that the film company that got Jackie Chan on loan from Lo Wei was a film company called Seasonal Films, run by Si Yun, famous producer, the same guy who would later go on to produce No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yeah.
Okay. So this like Si Yun was like a visionary, and he saw Jackie and he saw this guy can do comedy. So he convinced Lo Wei to loan him Jackie for 2 movies. And those 2 movies became Snake in the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master, which became huge hits. I mean, the first both of those movies are more or less the same movie. They have almost identical casts. The style is a little bit different. The story's a tiny bit different, but they're very similar. And, it has Simon Yun as the old dirty bastard, the old master, right? These movies did tremendously well and showed everyone, oh, this guy, Jackie Chan, when he has a little more creative freedom, is funny. He can do acrobatics. He doesn't take himself so seriously. And this is something completely different than what he had been doing, and something completely different than the Bruce Lee formula. So the problem was Lo Wei lent Jackie Chan for these 2 movies. These are 2 low budget movies. This isn't going to do shit. And these 2 low budget movies suddenly become these huge hits. They give Jackie Chan finally a name, because before then, as Bay Logan put it, he was kind of known as box office poison. Like if you wanted a film to fail, you put Jackie Chan in there, right?
Oh my!
And so now all of a sudden he's like a bona fide star. Wow! But he's still on contract with Lo Wei. So what Lo Wei did is he locked down Jackie's contract even more, because now he's afraid he's going to go elsewhere now that he's a bona fide star. And he did double his salary, but in this kind of ironclad kind of way. And even doubling the salary, according to the notes here, Jackie's take was still less than $1,000 for every movie, even though they were earning millions at the box office. So again, Lo Wei can be described as a very shrewd businessman.
He's a snake.
Yeah. In 1979, Jackie defied Lo Wei and shot The Young Master, which is a movie for Golden Harvest. And a war erupted between Lo Wei and Golden Harvest and the Sun Yi-on triads, because Lo Wei was connected to the Sun Yi-on triads. And Jackie was like, screw Lo Wei, I'm just going to go and make the movie for Golden Harvest. So now think about it. Lo Wei used to work for Golden Harvest as a studio director. In 75, creates his own production company. He's now kind of in competition with Golden Harvest, except that the movies he's making in Taiwan are not like huge successes. So Golden Harvest, I don't think, is particularly worried about Lo Wei at this point. But he's got Jackie. And now Jackie has shown through the 2 seasonal movies that he can be a bona fide star. Raymond wants Jackie back because Jackie just used to be a stunt player in the Bruce Lee days. And now he wants him back as like a real dude, like on there, like as like an A-lister. And Lo Wei is like, no. Jackie defies Lo Wei and makes a movie for Golden Harvest anyway, the young master, and this erupted a war because Lo Wei has Sun Yi-on triad connections. Now, of course, the moment you mention Sun Yi-on, you mention triads and Lo Wei. See, Lo Wei was a triad. Obviously, he killed Bruce. Yeah, not when he was Raymond Chow's subordinate. That would have not, I don't know if there were any triads that would have agreed to that in that situation, right? So, now I originally told some version of the story before, but in preparation for this episode, I did extra research and realized that I had a couple of the details wrong. So I'm going to read them here to make sure that I get it correctly. And this information I got from a fantastic article written by a guy named Grady Hendricks. He's a Hong Kong, he's a film expert, but I would say he specializes in Asian film, especially Hong Kong film. And he runs like the New York Asian Film Festival. And he's like a really high level Hong Kong film expert. He's almost like somewhat elitist. Like he'll tell you why everything you think about a movie is wrong. And so he's like one of those guys, but he is extremely knowledgeable. And so Golden Harvest was desperate to kind of quell this war because they don't want to be making a movie where Lo Wei is sending triads to the set of the movie to cause trouble, because that's what was going on. He was sending people over there while they were filming to cause trouble.
Oh,
yes. And so according to Jackie Chan's, Golden Harvest turned to an actor rumored to be enough of a badass that even the triads respected him, and that was Jimmy Wang Yu. So this is the late 70s already. So Jimmy Wang Yu's got these triad connections. Yeah. Jimmy Wang Yu is also very loyal to Golden Harvest because Jimmy Wang Yu, to go back to that, he originally worked for Shaw Brothers. So the movie One-Armed Swordsman, that was a Shaw Brothers film. And the only person at Shaw Brothers who had confidence in Jimmy Wang Yu was Raymond Chow. And then later when Raymond Chow started his own thing and Jimmy came, like you can imagine Jimmy Wang Yu is like Raymond Chow's ride or die because Raymond Chow was there and was willing to pay him money and to stick his neck out for them and go through all the litigation with Shaw Brothers for him. So you can then kind of see where Jimmy Wang Yu would have some loyalties to Golden Harvest, even if he wasn't making a lot of movies, but they were there for him. So now Raymond is like, Jimmy, we need help with this Lo Wei problem.
Ooh.
And so according to Jackie Chan's autobiography, I Am Jackie Chan, which I actually have here on my bookshelf, signed by Jackie Chan, by the way.
Wow.
This is what happened. Willie Chan, who was Jackie Chan's manager, he passed away a number of years ago.
No relation?
No, just Chan. Chan is like the Chinese Smith. All right.
Got it.
Jimmy is going to try to broker a peace agreement between the Sun Yi-on, that's the triad group we're dealing with, and Lo Wei and Golden Harvest. If he succeeds, we're off the hook. If he fails, it really doesn't matter because you won't be around to find out. So it is in a kind of in a serious situation here right now, right? Now, so according to I Am Jackie Chan, the summit meeting between Lo, Jimmy Wang Yu, and the Sun Yi-on, so the first meeting, had apparently not gone well. The news wasn't clear, but there had been some sort of altercation that ended with the gathering being broken up by the police. Okay. And then whatever it was that happened, according to Wang Yu, everything worked out. Lo Wei got paid, the triads backed off, and Golden Harvest was happy enough to pay Wang Yu $2 million for his trouble. So think about this. Wang Yu went in there into like the lion's den of Sun Yi-on people with whatever triad connections he had, which are not clear, and brokered a deal, got them to back off. They clearly gave Lo Wei some money, and Golden Harvest paid Jimmy Wang Yu $2 million for his troubles. So you can start to understand why Jackie was so loyal to Jimmy Wang Yu, why years later, when Vincent Lin was there and Wang Yu came in, Jackie was like, hey, like, this is the guy here. And as much as I'm not a big Jimmy Wang Yu fan, I totally understand why Jackie had nothing but loyalty and most likely love and a little bit of fear for that man, because that man got him out of that contract with Lo Wei. So that gives you a little bit of kind of context.
Yes.
What happened with Lo Wei in the years after Bruce Lee with Jackie Chan, trying to hold on to him like this and then having to let him go. He did not have that opportunity with Bruce Lee to hold on to Bruce Lee and press him because he was just a studio director for Golden Harvest. All right. So
Amazing.
you kind of you can see someone's true character when they are the boss. Because when when Lo Wei worked for Golden Harvest, he couldn't really do all these things. When he had his own production company, he's trying to control people through his triad connections, right? But again, the idea that even though I don't speak very favorably of Lo Wei's character, the idea that he would then have Bruce Lee killed when he was a subordinate to Raymond Chow just really doesn't make sense. So anyway, now that we're 40 something minutes in, let's get to the Bruce Lee part.
Let's get to it.
All right. So here we go. In 1970, okay, Bruce Lee paid a visit to Hong Kong with Brandon. All right. Unbeknownst to Bruce, he had become famous there due to reruns of The Green Hornet. In fact, that was one of the things in Dragging the Bruce Lee story when he went back to Hong Kong. Even though The Green Hornet was only one season, it was shown in Hong Kong. And because Bruce was a child star, everyone's like, oh my God, one of ours went to America and is in a TV show. Because that had never happened before, that someone from Hong Kong went to America and like was on TV and did movies. And so he became like a favorite son. They even supposedly called it the Kato Show in Hong Kong. Yeah. So Bruce visits Hong Kong in 1970. So this is again in that period where he really couldn't get any jobs in Hollywood. And, he was just doing some gigs here and there. He was teaching bong sao for cash to the celebrities and wasn't really doing what he wanted to do, which was to be a big freaking star. That's what he wanted. But he goes to Hong Kong, I think, because he wants to start looking for opportunities over there, perhaps already taking James Coburn's advice of going over there, becoming a star,
Spaghetti guy.
doing the Chinese version of the spaghetti westerns. And so he went over there to kind of probe, and he was able to appear on a very popular Hong Kong TVB series called Enjoy Yourself Tonight, also known as EYT. And he had an interview there. Now, apparently, Unicorn Chan, his good friend, he was the one who helped broker that deal. Unicorn later, we would see him in a lot of Bruce's films. He was one of the waiters in Way of the Dragon. He's the one that gets knocked out. And he was one of Bruce Lee's close friends. And then later, Bruce repaid the favor by helping Unicorn Chan get his own movie deal started. And there was a board-breaking demonstration on this TV show. And when they saw this was basically the first time Hong Kong audiences got to see Bruce Lee live as a badass. Because besides The Green Hornet, Bruce was a childhood actor who did mostly dramatic films. And Bay Logan once said in one of his books, it would be akin to, you saw Macaulay Culkin make those Home Alone movies.
Right.
And then you don't see him for 12 years. And then he comes back like muscled and he's like this total badass. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
That was kind of the comparison for Bruce Lee.
Strange thing for those Bruce Lee fans, the early Bruce Lee fans.
Yeah, the ones in Hong Kong
as a kid.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have known him that way.
That's so
right.
wild.
And there he is breaking boards and doing martial arts and being all dynamic. And it was like, what? Right.
Yeah.
And then so because Bruce was encouraged by this interest, the Unicorn Chan asked Unicorn Chan to get him like a meeting or to pass his resume to Shaw Brothers, because I think Unicorn Chan either was already working there, maybe had made some films for Shaw Brothers, but Shaw Brothers was the main studio because again, Golden Harvest was formed, but not yet really anything in 1970. They offered Bruce, so Shaw Brothers offered Bruce a long-term contract, but only 2,000 Hong Kong per film, which Bruce declined. It's like insultingly low amount of money. Another offer appeared unexpectedly from Raymond Chow, a film producer who had in 1970 left Shaw Brothers to form a new company called Golden Harvest. And Chow was aware of the rejected offer from Shaw Brothers because as a former Shaw employee, probably, it was, if it wasn't in the news, he knew people who were there and were telling him these things. And he had been impressed by Bruce's interviews on Hong Kong television radio and, also talked to him on a long distance phone call and Raymond had a good feeling about Bruce. During that phone call, Lee determined that he could make the best action movie playing in Hong Kong and assured Chow that, or I should say, Lee was determined that the best action movie in Hong Kong at that time, which could have been either Chinese Boxer or the one-armed boxer or something like that, Bruce basically said he can do much better. All right. Like, which it probably, to be fair, it was a Wang Yu movie.
Okay.
And Bruce was like, please.
No.
By the way, Jimmy Wang Yu didn't make a lot of movies during the time Bruce was making movies.
Yeah.
Because Raymond Chow was in litigation with Shaw Brothers. Shaw Brothers still had Jimmy Wang Yu on contract.
Huh.
And they were accusing Raymond of poaching him. And as a result, Jimmy Wang Yu was not allowed to make films in Hong Kong for 3 years. That was one of the stipulations. So he was contracted to Raymond, but Raymond couldn't use him for anything. But they found a loophole, which was to make movies in Taiwan, not in Hong Kong. And so there were a couple of Taiwanese movies there, but that's the reason why when Bruce was making those films, you would see Jimmy Wang Yu hanging around Golden Harvest, but he wasn't like making movies in Hong Kong. And anytime you see Bruce and Jimmy Wang Yu in a photo together, you could tell Bruce is not like Jimmy Wang Yu. So anyway, wow. So in June 1971, okay, so about a year later, Chow sent one of his producers. In here, it writes her name as Liu Lianghua, which is Mandarin. Most likely it's not Lao Lianghua, something like that, who, by the way, was the wife of Lo Wei. So she was a producer and the wife of Lo Wei. And Raymond Chow sent her to Los Angeles to meet and negotiate with Bruce, who signed a contract to make 2 films for Golden Harvest for $15,000, sorry, $10,000 for The Big Boss, and $5,000 on completion of the second film, tentatively titled King of the Chinese Boxers, which became Fists of Fury.
Okay.
This eased the Lees' financial worries and permitted Linda to quit her job.
King of the Chinese Boxers.
Yes.
Jimmy Wang Yu's early movie was what? Chinese?
Just Chinese Boxer.
Chinese Boxer. Ooh.
So then now Bruce is on contract with Golden Harvest, and the first movie, The Big Boss, he has to fly to Thailand to go do. Lo Wei, by the way, was not the original. Lo Wei, by the way, was not the original director for Big Boss. There was another director. They have his name here is Wu Jiaxiang, which again is a Mandarinization. I don't know what the Cantonese version of his name was. And he apparently just wasn't cutting mustard. Remember, the original Big Boss was going to have James Tien as the main star. James Tien is one of the second fiddles in Big Boss. He was originally going to be the star. Yeah. And then they get Bruce Lee and it's like, sorry, kid, you're not the star anymore. Oh. It's this guy, right? And they didn't like the first director. The first director didn't gel very well with Bruce. So they replaced him with Lo Wei, which I think was on the suggestion of Lo Wei's wife, who was a producer for that film, and said, hey, just use my husband as the director, right? When Lo Wei replaced the original director in July 71, he was unhappy with the script and rewrote it without Bruce's knowledge. Lo later recalled, I wouldn't tell him I was rewriting the script for fear of affecting his morale. In my hotel room, he would often discuss the script with me, which would leave me tongue-tied, so I would tell him I needed to rest. And as soon as I left, I would be burning the midnight oil in order to get the script ready for the next day's filming. So already we can see the genesis between the problem between them, right? Now, it's understandable from Lo Wei's perspective why he's like, this late replacement actor, this Chinese guy who has been living in the States for 12 years, is coming here and telling me what the script should be. Yeah. So I understand.
What's his deal?
Bruce, who was a childhood actor, and don't forget, by this point, and this is, I think, maybe the crux between the animosity between the two, Bruce, even though he never made it big in Hollywood, he was to a certain degree a minor celebrity in America and Hollywood. He was on a TV show on ABC stations.
Wow.
Okay.
That's right.
The Green Hornet.
ABC.
He had done
major.
he had done a movie with James Garner. All
Yeah.
right. Marlowe.
Mm-hmm.
He did other TV. Here Come the Blondes, Ironside. He was a choreographer for The Wrecking Crew, which was a film with Sharon Tate.
Mm.
He was the teacher to Roman Polanski, one of the most famous directors in Hollywood. So Bruce knew people like Steve McQueen, James Coburn, Roman Polanski.
Uh-huh.
Okay. One of the most famous directors. And now he's working with this, what he probably considers a hack.
Ah.
You see what I mean? So when people go like, oh, why didn't they gel or whatever? It's like, well, personalities. I mean, people don't get along for, sometimes you don't even know why you don't get along with someone.
Okay.
But let's look at where Bruce Lee was. He was impatient to become a big star. He felt that he was wasting his time in the US. He wanted to become a big star in Hong Kong as quickly as possible. He had worked and he knows personally some of the biggest movie stars in the world. And here he is in hot ass Thailand with crappy food, working for a director who's writing the script the night before they shoot the movie. And Bruce,
that's like
being creative,
to put it
probably
in perspective,
has his own ideas. And here's the thing. Maybe a lot of Bruce's ideas are not bad because Bruce worked with American directors and American scriptwriters. And let's be honest, Chinese scripts, especially in martial art movies, generally leave something to be desired. Okay. Can anyone honestly say that the script for Big Boss is well written and well fleshed out? I mean, could it not have maybe
there's a couple of
been
iconic
improved,
scenes, but
been improved by having some better character arcs for different people in there?
Okay.
Maybe a couple more fight scenes, maybe a couple of other little things, right? So, I mean, I kind of get Bruce coming from Hollywood and being like, he's worked with way better people than this hack and wanting to put in his 2 cents. And I can understand Lo Wei going like, bro, you're an actor. I'm the director. Like, know your place. So it's understandable why the two of them wouldn't get along with each other. Right. So, Bruce is giving him suggestions on rewrites. Lo Wei isn't having it. You can already start to see the animosity like slowly starting to build, right?
So what if you could transport back in time for a front row seat into the life and legacy of one of the most respected Wing Chun masters in history? Gong Sao Wang, a tribute direct students on Sifu Wang Sonleung, offers you just that. Through a series of exclusive conversations, 25 direct students share anecdotes, reflections, and personal stories offering in-depth understanding of the man behind the legend. Order your copy today across 12 Amazon marketplaces with free shipping. I absolutely love this book, and I think you'll find it an indispensable part of your collection. I can't recommend it enough. Get yours today. Go to Amazon, type in Gong Sao Wang, and there you go.
And then shooting did not go smoothly at first. Just after a few days, the original director was replaced by Lo Wei, and Bruce was initially skeptical of Lo, describing him in letters to Linda as a fame lover and another so-and-so with an almost, and this is a quote, another so-and-so with an almost unbearable air of superiority.
Ooh.
So it's very clear Bruce just did not like Lo Wei's character. And think about it. I mean, I don't want to like beat on a dead horse, but Bruce just came back from Hollywood. Okay. He talks to people like James Coburn. Okay. He knows Roman Polanski. He knew all these famous people. He knows the cream of the crop.
Right.
And now you have Lo Wei, who is a bit of a fame seeker. Don't forget that in the second movie, Fists of Fury, Lo Wei put himself in one of the acting roles in the movie. He's like the police inspector.
Okay.
So he puts himself in the movie. So even when he's old and he's supposed to be behind the camera, he's got to put his face in front of the camera. So Bruce's assessment of Lo Wei as a fame lover may not be too far off. Now, does that then mean it makes sense in 2 years for Bruce to pull a knife on Lo Wei? Well, no, but already these things start small and they tend to accumulate over time. Bruce looks at him as just someone who's a fame lover and probably a bit of a hack. Lee was not a fan of the director or his direction. According to Jackie Chan, he saw Lo Wei and Bruce Lee get into a verbal altercation that nearly escalated into a physical altercation. Lo Wei then hid behind his wife, who was then able to calm Lee down. Now, when I hear that story written here, that's most likely on the second film, because Jackie Chan was a stuntman in Fist of Fury, not on Big Boss.
I see.
So here we see that by the first movie, Bruce is writing to Linda. This guy's kind of a fame lover, kind of a hack. By the second movie, he's basically telling Lo Wei to shut the F up in front of everyone else, getting like really in his face, and Lo Wei has to hide behind his wife. So because Bruce knows he only has to make one more movie with this guy. When he's done, he's going to renegotiate with Raymond to never have to make a movie with him again. So that's why by the second movie, Bruce does not have to kiss Lo Wei's ass anymore, and he's letting him have it. Bruce definitely had a temper, even by his own admission.
Yeah.
But I think it does say something, given how people talked about how professional Bruce Lee was on all the various films, all the TV shows, all the stuff that he did. He was a consummate professional, that he was willing to literally almost get into a physical altercation with Lo Wei. It's obviously a huge personal component in there, but there must have been something that Bruce saw as completely unprofessional with Lo Wei. I'll give you an example of one of these. I read this in Steve Carriage's fine book, Way of the Intercepting Fist, which is about Fists of Fury. As you know, at that time, they didn't shoot with sound. Hong Kong films were shot without sound, even until the early 90s. Okay. They started to shoot it with synchro sound because in the early days, they would have to dub them into Mandarin for the international release anyway. And so it was just easier for them to shoot without sounds, add all the sounds in a studio, do a Mandarin version, do a Cantonese version, and then they were done. So that's why even when you saw the original Big Boss in Hong Kong, it would have been dubbed in Mandarin with subtitles. And then later when they would do a Cantonese dub, which I think didn't even come out until the 80s, it was another actor, obviously, because Bruce Lee was dead. So even in the Cantonese version of Bruce's Chinese films, you never hear Bruce's actual voice speaking Cantonese. So when you watch Way of the Dragon, Bruce is speaking Cantonese. Okay. The track is in Cantonese, but that's not Bruce Lee saying those words. All right. So it's interesting. And but because they shot without sound, there was never a need for quiet on the set. Okay. So often, and this was in Carriage's book, talked about, I think, by someone who was on the set. They shot without sound, and Lo Wei would have a radio on there where he was listening to the horse racing, because he would gamble, as many Hong Kong Chinese do, on horse races. Okay. And they would be in the middle of shooting a scene, and Lo Wei is listening to horse racing, and if his horse won or lost, he would go, and he would like, get either upset or clap or whatever, and they're literally shooting a scene. What? But because it's not shot with sound, that sound doesn't get on the movie. No. But the actors are trying to focus and do their lines. Now,
you gotta listen to this.
I cannot claim to know why Bruce Lee did not like Lo Wei. We can see what he said. He thought he was a hack, fame lover, this, that, or whatever. But can you imagine going from this, having worked with someone like James Garner on a movie like Marlowe, or even being the choreographer for the Wrecking Crew? He's working with Dean Martin and Sharon Tate and Nancy Kwan and all these professionals. Right. To now he's in a little studio and the effing director is screaming in the middle of the scene because his horse won or lost. Yeah. So you can just see how Bruce Lee would have just looked at this guy as just being levels beneath him in terms of professionalism. Yes. And so I'm not saying this rises to the need to put a knife in someone's face. No. But I'm just saying we can kind of understand why Bruce would have thought this guy was kind of a POS. Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, I just thought the whole story of Lo Wei hiding behind his wife was kind of funny. Yeah. You know what I mean? So here we have that situation. Okay. We finished the movie. Bruce now creates Concord Productions, 50-50 partnership with Raymond Chow. He never needs to make a movie for Lo Wei again. Lo Wei in the press made a few comments about him being responsible for creating Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee got really freaking salty about this. Now we could say like, hey, where's with all this Krishnamurti philosophy and Jeet Kune Do philosophy and the guy, the enemy in front of me doesn't bother me or whatever. You ever have someone that they never really did you dirty or did anything really particularly shitty to you, but you just don't like them. There's just something about the cut of their jib that just rubs you. What does Stripey say? You rub your rhubarb the wrong way or something, right?
It really rubs my rhubarb.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
And you sometimes you can't explain it. Yeah. I trained in Germany with someone at the castle like that.
Okay.
It was just another, like a kind of a frenemy. He never did anything openly shitty, but he was like the king of these backhanded compliments where he would say stuff where you swear like he's kind of saying it, also trying to put you down in a weird way, but not open enough where you could be like, bro, because if you press them, they'd be like, no, it was just like, it's like these people who are so great at being just at the cusp of something that if you push back, they're like, whoa. Yeah. Why you being triggered, bro? I love that. When people constantly pelt
I'm
shit.
I'm sure it's happened to me. I just can't think of anyone right now.
When people, well, you're a lot more easygoing than I am in certain ways. When people pelt shit your way. Yeah. And you push back on that and they're like, yo, why are you getting so triggered? It's like, wait. You don't get to pelt shit. Yeah. And because I have a podcast where people know who I am, I have to say, yeah, okay, it's great. You can say whatever you want. I'm not going to push back. If you say some bullshit, I'm going to push back. No. All right. And if I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. But, it's kind of funny. Like when people go, whoa, why are you getting so triggered? It's like, I'm not getting triggered. I'm just pushing back on you being a dick. All right.
Why are you getting triggered? Man?
And so you can kind of see where Bruce was getting into this kind of like, he thought this guy was a hack. And now this guy's trying to take credit for his hard work. Honestly, if I look back, if I go back at like Bruce, like, don't let this shit bother you. Yeah. He is a hack. He will never be known for anything else except trying to saddle Jackie Chan into an agreement for which he has to get pushed out of. And then Lo Wei will forever be known as the guy who gave Bruce Lee his first movie and gave Jackie Chan his start. But he will not ever be known for the guy who made Bruce Lee. And people will know Bruce Lee without thinking about Lo Wei. Like, I wish I could just go back and tell Bruce, like, yo, like, don't let this guy get in your shit. But here's the thing. That's 46-year-old me. And it was 32-year-old Bruce. When I was 32 years old, if I was in a situation similar to Bruce, I can see myself getting way more bent out of shape about stuff than I would now. It's a big difference that 15 years makes.
Jesus, really? 45-year-old, you would be the same. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
45.
Yeah, this was only last week. You've only just had this awakening.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So it's life stages, when you get famous and popular very young, it's easy when you're older, you have clarity, or you're not in the situation like, hey, man, come on. But it is what it is. Lo Wei got under Bruce Lee's skin.
Yeah.
So I want to read kind of two accounts of the big thing that happened between Bruce and Lo Wei. As we know, it was either in June or July, so very close to Bruce Lee's death, where Bruce famously pulled out his belt buckle knife on Lo Wei. They were at a screening at Golden Harvest. Apparently, Lo Wei had made some comments in the press about him being the one who taught Bruce Lee how to fight on camera. And that shit sent Bruce Lee over the edge. Now, mind you, we're dealing with a late stage Bruce Lee right here. So we're dealing with a Bruce Lee who perhaps, based on what we know from the drug letters, was a slightly more regular user of cocaine than he was a year or two earlier. Okay. So I'm not saying that excuses Bruce Lee's behavior. I'm just saying that could give us a little context why he would then kind of go overboard. And he came in, he yelled something in Chinese to Lo Wei to the effect of, you are a beast in human clothing, which is a huge insult in Chinese. And then started yelling at him. Like Lo Wei is sitting in a screening room at Golden Harvest, like a little mini movie theater, screening some film or whatever. Bruce comes in, starts screaming at him, and supposedly pulls out that belt buckle knife and puts it to his throat, and so on and so forth. Now, I want to read 2 accounts of that, and just so you can kind of see. Now, the first account I'm going to read is from Bruce Lee, The Man Only I Knew, which was Linda Lee's book that she wrote very shortly after Bruce Lee's death. Now, as I've talked about before, this book is surprisingly candid and honest in a way that Linda Lee and the Lee estate and Shannon Lee and co. generally now, they tried to sweep all these kind of things under the rug, and they give you a very sanitized look at
This
Bruce
book
Lee.
was written when?
I believe the first edition, which this is a first edition, give me a moment here, is 75.
Wow.
So very shortly after. Because I think Bruce died in the midway point of 73. So this is within a very close shot of Bruce's death. And Linda,
Still fresh.
And Linda was surprisingly candid and open at that time. Like I said, in a way that they are not anymore. They've tried to sweep a lot of this stuff under the rug.
Interesting.
She does actually describe the altercation with Lo Wei in the book. She doesn't mention the knife, however, or she does in another way. So it's like, it's more candid. It's not 100% candid. I mean, how can we ever really be?
Right.
But I want to read it just to give you an idea of the difference between the quote unquote Lee estate in the early days and kind of like the Lee estate now, trying to paint him as a modern day philosopher, right? So give me a second here.
Sure.
Okay.
Certainly.
Here we go. All right. So it talks about, when he was in Los Angeles, Bruce agreed that he would return to America again in August to help promote Enter the Dragon and would appear on a series of promotions, including the Johnny Carson show, which we talked about, which one of the things that we lament never seeing Bruce Lee on The Tonight Show. Back again in Hong Kong, Bruce returned to work on The Game of Death. He returned to the usual crop of lurid stories in the local press, some of which linked his name to a young actress from Taiwan, Betty Ting Pei. He also fell out with a local newspaper, which ran a series purporting to be by Yip Man's son, which carried some major inaccuracies about Bruce's youth. That was the story where Yip Chun supposedly said he saw Bruce Lee get knocked down in training. Do you remember we talked about that? And of course, that can't be true because Yip Chun did not come to Hong Kong until he was in China at that time, until years after Bruce had already left. So Yip Chun never saw Bruce Lee training with his father in those days before he came to the States.
Man.
So it's either a matter of the Hong Kong newspaper twisting the story and being sensationalistic, which is understandable. I've been the victim of sensationalistic Hong Kong journalism, hence why I have the nickname the Kung Fu Genius. But it also could have been Yip Chun lying and then going back on it. So we don't know. Or most likely a little bit of both. A little bit of bullshit on all parties all around, right? But then but notice that Linda mentions the name Betty Ting Pei. You can't really do this anymore around Linda or in any official stuff. It's not mentioned anymore. But here she mentioned it. But clearly she tried to say linked with some Taiwanese actress. Everyone knew they had an affair, but she's at least willing to admit it. Okay? Now, remember what we were talking about, what the vibe of his final months were?
Yeah.
Not great. Now, listen to what Linda Lee herself says. I would like to be able to write that Bruce's last days were among his happiest, but regrettably, this would not be wholly true. The film world can be petty and spiteful with vast sums of money at stake. There are wheels within wheels. As in every business, too, there are personality clashes due to temperament and behavior. For a long time, since his first film in Bangkok, that's Big Boss, Bruce and Lo Wei, the director, had been on anything but good terms. Bruce thought the director too conceited and selfish and a man who simply wanted to use people. All right? So it's coming from Linda, who she's not reading Chinese newspaper. She doesn't read Chinese.
She gets it from the horse's mouth.
She gets it from Bruce, all right? Bruce was at Golden Harvest Studios one day talking over ideas about the Game of Death with Raymond Chow when he heard that Lo Wei was in a nearby screening room. As his letter to Ted Ashley shows, Bruce was desperately searching for a film of real integrity and quality to work with, to help him achieve the kind of results that nobody had yet dreamed of. When Lo Wei's name was mentioned, to Bruce, his name summed up almost everything that was wrong with Mandarin films. Bruce's hot temper took over, and he rushed down the screening room and in a loud voice let Lo Wei know what he thought of him. This is Linda Lee saying this happened. So, because I still occasionally get people that come, why would Bruce even care about Lo Wei? Like, this is literally Linda Lee in 75 saying he went over there and yelled at that dude. This is pretty irrefutable. What we don't know is the exact details, because everyone's going to spin it either to make Bruce look worse or make Bruce look better. But clearly, this shit happened.
Yeah.
Satisfied at having given a vent to his feelings, he returned to Raymond Chow's office. At this stage, the incident seemed at an end. But then Lo Wei's wife appeared, and tempers again became heated. By this time, voices had been raised in angry tones. A considerable crowd gathered. Mrs. Lo went back to her husband, leaving Bruce boiling over with anger and frustration. Under normal conditions, he would have quickly calmed down. Instead, he charged back to the screening room and gave Lo Wei another piece of his mind. The director claimed that Bruce had threatened him physically, an absurd claim, of course, but one which was bound to elicit both sympathy and publicity. The police were called and were followed by a horde of reporters. Lo Wei demanded that Bruce sign a paper promising not to harm him physically. Bruce, annoyed and upset by the whole incident and anxious to get the reporters off the premises, agreed to sign. Later, he could have kicked himself, for it appeared to incriminate him. Had Lo Wei been a young man and a reasonable match for him, Bruce's hot temper may well have found an outlet in a fight. But the idea that he would strike or physically injure an old man is beyond credibility. So you see, Linda is definitely saying hey, this really happened and Bruce did sign a paper or whatever. But it also seems, based on the testimony of others, that Bruce actually did pull the knife on Lo Wei. But Linda is being a little bit selective about talking about that. Okay. Yeah. In Bruce's physical health and physical state, did he need a weapon to beat up the old, out of shape Lo Wei? Absolutely not.
Did she go with Bruce to the screening room the 2 times that he went to the screening room? I don't know.
No.
If that was
she doesn't say that she's a witness to this.
Right.
So she's hearing this from Bruce.
Right. So
it's possible Bruce told her the story and Bruce didn't mention the knife. Because in hindsight, he was But I don't think so. I think Linda knew about the knife. I think that was understood. People go well, did Bruce need a weapon to do in Lo Wei? Absolutely not. But I mean,
simple threat.
But sometimes, and I'm not condoning it, but I mean, you want someone to stop?
Yeah.
You put a weapon to them? There you go. But now Bruce is kind of in a little bit of trouble, right? And so Bruce was asked to appear on Hong Kong TV that evening, and the matter was raised again. Through his life, Bruce had never feared to state openly and frankly how he felt about people and problems. He was never deliberately rude or deliberately ruthless. He was firm and straightforward, expressing his opinions clearly and unambiguously, which is very different. He did not attempt to conceal his dislike of Lo Wei or his methods, although at no time did he mention the man by his name. So in the interview, he's talking about Lo Wei and doesn't mention him by name. That's some real salt right there. In an attempt to show how absurd were suggestions that he was prepared to use a weapon against Lo Wei, he decided to demonstrate a simple shoulder push on the interviewer, who was quite agreeable. So basically the idea was I don't need to use a weapon on Lo Wei. Look how powerful I am.
Yeah.
And then he was going to give a push to the guy who's interviewing him, right? As a demonstration of his prowess. Bruce put only a fraction of the force he was capable of exerting into the demonstration, but it was still sufficient to look pretty fierce to the viewers. The next morning, the papers, still seeking for sensation, built up the incident into more headlines. Bruce, in short, had become such a superstar that whatever he did was avidly seized on by the local press. Inevitably, the picture that was presented was a distorted one. It was often, or very often, a part of the truth, but it was never the totality. So basically, what she's saying, and Matt Pauly talked about it too in his book, is that when Bruce, gave this palm strike or whatever to the reporter, he knocked the reporter down, and it looked just like Bruce was bullying the reporter, even though it was an agreed upon demonstration. And so in hindsight, it wasn't like a good look for Bruce to go like, I don't need a knife. Here, let me show and beat up this guy. See, I'm not an aggressive guy, right? And so at that time, like I said, the love affair with Bruce Lee, the press builds you up and then they start to tear you down. This was the cycle that was going on. So it's natural that if they have two ways to interpret an event, they're going to interpret it that, oh, look at Bruce Lee's off the rails or whatever. By the way, I'm not saying Bruce was not off the rails at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to finish with one thing.
We might have to 2-part or 3-part.
No. This is the last part.
Oh.
Okay. So we are now going to discuss the knife incident from a slightly different perspective. Okay. Because Linda says the incident happened, denies the knife. Okay. That's Linda's way of looking at it. Right. And, even though there may be some details that are not forthcoming, I have to say that it's a lot more honest than what we usually get. And now we're going to listen to the event as told by Andre Morgan. Andre Morgan was an American who worked for Raymond Chow at Golden Harvest. Also knew Bruce Lee, obviously, very well.
Great name, by the way.
Andre Morgan is still around.
I like his name.
And he was on Bruce Willow's podcast, by the way, too. We should get Andre Morgan on the podcast.
I'm surprised he hasn't been on here yet.
Let me know in the comments if you guys want me to get Andre Morgan on this podcast,
Ooh.
all right? And I will try my best. Okay, so here's an interview with Andre Morgan. Did he ever get... So Andre Morgan is answering some questions, so I'm just running right in with Andre Morgan is saying, did he ever get angry? Sure. Did he ever lose his temper? Sure. Did he ever threaten to punch people out? Sure. He threatened to punch me out. I was there the day of the famous scene between him and Lo Wei. Question. Oh, you were there. Morgan. Sure. I was in the screening room. It was bizarre. He came down and started screaming at Lo Wei. He lost it. He lost it because he misunderstood what Lo Wei had said. And from Lo Wei's point of view, here was a young actor who he considered should have, in the Chinese tradition, owed him a lot of respect. Owed him a lot of respect, like in that, hierarchy, because he's the older director, Bruce is the young actor. Him being the director, the man who had taken this actor and put him in the movies and made him a big star. Well, it was actually Raymond Chow who put him in the movie. And now the actor wasn't giving him face. It was an ego rub. You know what? The same thing goes on in this town, Los Angeles. And what happened? Lo Wei was sitting watching a movie with his wife, me, Raymond, and Leonard Ho. Leonard Ho was also a kind of a silent partner with Raymond Chow. And Bruce came into the studio looking for Raymond. And one of the office boys came down and told us Bruce wanted to see Raymond. And Raymond said, tell Bruce to come down. And Bruce got pissed off because everyone wasn't kowtowing. And then he waited for 10 minutes and no one came up. Everyone's still watching the movie. And so he came down. And as he came into the screening room, Lo Wei made a sarcastic comment about close the door. You can't see the movie because the door is open in the screening room. And Bruce took it as a personal thing and he lost it. And he threatened to punch out Lo Wei and he threatened to stab him. So here we get a little more context. Bruce is already pissed. He's waiting for them to come. They don't come because they're still screaming. He'll screw it. And he goes into the screening room himself. Then Lo Wei makes a crack about him not closing the door. Now, I'm not saying this is how I would react in that situation. I'm just saying it's always personal. All right. So, and then question, because he had the belt deal, Morgan, the belt with the hidden knife in the buckle. And Lo Wei got pissed off and he went storming out. And we took Bruce up to Raymond's office. Raymond and I went, and Bruce went one way, and Leonard Ho, Lo Wei, Liang Hua Liu, his wife, went the other way. We got Bruce calmed down. Leonard couldn't get Lo Wei calmed down. Lo Wei insisted on calling the police. The next thing we knew, we had the police driving up to the studio lot, demanding to see Bruce and demanding to get a report from Lo Wei from everyone involved. And so, of course, everyone lied through their teeth, lied there was a knife, denied there was a belt, said Lo Wei was losing it, and Lo Wei didn't press charges, ultimately, as I recall. But then Bruce was pissed off, and he went on TV, and he got on TV that night.
Oh, wow.
Question, I heard about that. What did he do on TV? Oh, it was stupid. He got up and denied that he had threatened Lo Wei and issued a, hey, if I wanted to kill this man or hurt this man, of course I could have. So you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't need a knife, but if I wanted to hurt that guy, I would have no problem doing it. It's like, Bruce, that's not the best.
If I wanted to kill him.
Yeah, but I mean, but in terms of PR, You get accused of like, assaulting or potentially assaulting someone. You're like, I wouldn't do that. But if I wanted to, I could easily kill him. It was like, hey, maybe that wasn't the best way, right? He was trying to backpedal because he knew he had gotten himself into trouble with the police that afternoon. And the belt with the hidden knife, it was locked in the bottom drawer of my desk when the police came. Anyway, I don't know if anyone else would tell you the truth about where the belt was. And then the question, I think I've seen that belt. Yeah, it had a curved buckle. He pulled it out. He never threatened Lo Wei close by. He's standing there waving it and sitting there going, oh, give me a break. Everyone knew it was like, I'm going to kill you if you don't stop me, feigning being held back. Somebody hold me back. Come on, Bruce. Actors' lives on the screen and off the screen. I'm going to punch you if you don't stop me. Somebody stop him. I mean, it was bullshit. So he's basically saying Bruce was like, yeah, give you someone stop me. But like maybe he's kind of Bruce wasn't actually serious.
Oh, shit.
He was kind of like, yeah, someone, the way Barry always pretends to want to attack me and he pretends people are holding him back. So there you go. That's from Andre Morgan.
Okay.
And the final bit, which makes everything confusing, is that when Bruce died, they interviewed Lo Wei on camera. And you can see it. Our good friend here on YouTube, Sifu Subtitles, that's the YouTube channel. He takes Chinese stuff and puts subtitles on it. He actually subtitled the short statement by Lo Wei. It's only like a minute long, maybe. And Lo Wei is crying. And he's saying like, oh, but it's such like, you see it, it's schmacting.
Acting.
Okay. He's going like, when I got the call from Raymond, I was very sad. And he's crying. And then you kind of see he's a bit of an actor. Now, look, I can't say what Lo Wei was really feeling. He's passed on. You never really understand. Maybe it was sincere. But the one thing about it is he's crying like about Bruce died. And he goes, and then he says while he's crying, even though Bruce Lee openly insulted me, ultimately we could always cooperate on our films together. And it sounded like a bunch of kind of victim bullshit. Like I'm going to cry because I'm a better person. And he even insulted me, but here I am crying for Bruce Lee. And that's why I find it slightly disingenuous, but I could be wrong. Ultimately, we don't know what goes on in the heads of other people. And that's all I got to say about that. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Kung Fu Genius. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the Kung Fu Genius. Hit that bell for notifications. Let me know if you like this kind of content by putting it in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
Word is I'm a kung fu genius. Technique speaks for me, not lineage. Forget Jet Li, cause I'm the one. Many call me seafood, but to you I'm sea gung. And I produce masters. You surpassed us. Your kung fu stiffer than corpse and caskets. City Wing Chun is the house I built. Violate the gate and your blood gets spilt. Alex, Richter, always the victor.
Did you get your tooth removed?
Yeah, the tooth that was in the lip is removed.
Oh, that's why you look like you have a chewing tobacco in your face.
Look like Sylvester Stallone over here.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah. You got Bell's palsy all up in his business. Okay, 1, 2, 3, bam.
Mikey has to
All
clap.
right. All right.
One take, Jake.
Hercules.